episode of the Enrich Your Journey podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Monahan, financial advisor, partner here at Trilogy, headquartered in St. Louis, helping investors all over the country. Just appreciate your time. This is episode number 9. So we're moving along, having a lot of fun. We're now in the 6 digits of views on the first 8 episodes. So we've had really good engagement with everybody. As I've mentioned in the past, this is really a platform for myself and the guests that I'll continue to have to educate you all on financial planning topics, investing topics in general, and then obviously just interviewing influential people that may help you or give you ideas on how to enrich your journey, hence the name. So thanks again for being here. Today's episode, in the next 10 minutes, financial planning strategy, keeping it pretty short. This one all has to do with education expenses and how to best fund those. We get these questions a lot. We are involved with a lot of our education plans for clients, prospective clients, anybody that's inquiring. Obviously, you may already know this, but education expenses continue to go up quite a bit over what just normal inflation is. So I just thought I'd take the next 10 minutes, kind of go through really some stats. I'm going to focus more on college expense today, trends, stats there, and then how we go about helping clients fund those goals, fund those plans for their loved ones. So again, I'm going to focus more on college expenses. So I'll start with that. Let's share some stats. You all know I love stats. So to kind of level set here, I pulled some information this is from the Education Data Initiative. This is as of late last year, 2023. So some important stats here, again, just to sort of set the tone. So the average annual cost of a 4-year public college is 23 times higher than it was in the early 1960s. So a dramatic increase in expenses. A 4-year college tuition for a public school has averaged 12% annually from 2012 to 2022 and 8% per year back to 1963. So it's massive, right? That's a huge number, 8% per year. I actually looked and went back to the same time period. I was able to pull 1960 as compared to 1963. The average inflation in the U.S., just generally speaking, cost of living, has gone up 3.8% from 1960 until 2022. So at a very similar time period, generally speaking, inflation in our country has gone up 3.8%, and inflation for a 4-year public college has gone up by more than double that, or 8%. So it's massive. A 4-year degree on average at the end of 2022 costs $30,031 per year. Over $30,000 per year, 4-year average public college. This includes tuition, fees, and room and board. So obviously, this trend's not slowing down. This is talked about a lot in the media. The current administration is working on finding ways to help potentially alleviate some of the debt that burdens a lot of college graduates. And it's a hot topic. I mentioned this. It comes up a lot with our clients, prospective clients. If you're planning on attending college yourself, if you have children that are attending to plan college, if you have children currently in K through 12, you can now utilize a 529 account. It's just talked about a lot because these are real numbers. These are big numbers, right? And these affect your overall financial well-being. They affect your future financial plan. So it's something that we spend a lot of time on, discussing, calculating future value expenses, and then designing really, how do we pay for this, right? So let's get into that. How do you pay for all this? We utilize a 529 college savings account. These now can be utilized for K through 12, but essentially they're a state-sponsored program that allows parents, relatives, friends to invest in a child's or any person's K through 12 or college education. So I'll repeat that again. It does not have to be a parent. It can be a relative, friend. You own the asset. You're contributing monies into this account for the benefit of a child or a beneficiary for either K through 12 education or college. They are to be used for qualified higher expenses. This includes up to $10,000 in annual expenses and tuition for enrollment or attendance in elementary, secondary, private, or religious schools. So that's the K through 12. You are capped at 10,000. Unlike college, you can obviously go above that when you're withdrawing from a 529 plan. But just know 529 plans, they're set up by states. They allow you to contribute money, obviously utilizing these for educational expenses. Let's talk about some of the advantages. When you contribute money to a 529 account, the growth of that asset, so you're participating in the stock market or bond market or any investments inside of those accounts, that the earnings on that grow tax deferred. So if you put $50,000 in a 529 plan over various years, and by the time your beneficiary, such as your child, is getting ready to enter college, that is now worth $100,000. That growth of that profit of $50,000 is never taxed during that time period. So it allows you to compound that, ideally, faster and greater, so that when you need those assets to help pay for these expenses, you have that without the burden of paying on that capital gain or that growth along the way. So that's number one. Withdrawals out of the account are tax-free as long as they're used for qualified educational expenses. I mentioned those categories. Typically, they are tuition, fees, room, and board, kind of your standard educational expenses. Again, primarily focusing on college for this episode. So contributions to the account also has an advantage. Very likely are tax deductible. So as long as you're using your own state-sponsored 529 plan, or the state that you reside in allows tax parity with outside states, your contributions most likely are also deductible for a state tax deduction. So not on a federal level, but you do get to deduct on your state. So I'll give you an example. We're here in the Midwest. Missouri 529s Missouri is a tax parity state when it comes to 529 accounts. So our clients in Missouri, domiciled here, residents in Missouri, can use any state 529 accounts in the country if there's a 529 that maybe has better options, lower fees, more features than Missouri. We typically use a Charles Schwab 529, and it's, again, you don't have to worry about any benefits not being allowed in terms of the deduction for our Missouri clients. Conversely, right across the Mississippi River in Illinois, the Illinois plan does not have tax parity. Illinois is not a tax parity state when it comes to these college savings accounts. So our clients in Illinois have to use the Illinois state-sponsored 529 account. It's called the Bright Start account. They cannot use outside states if they are trying to get that deduction on the contributions that they're making into that account. So a little complicated there, but with a quick search, you could find out if you live in Iowa or Florida or Washington, D.C., does your state allow outside 529s, or are you subject to using your own state 529 accounts in order to get the state deduction on the contributions that you're making to that account? A couple other bullet points on the 529s, why we believe they're the best vehicle for saving for educational expenses. This is talked about a lot. We get this question a lot too. If you save into a 529, does that hurt your ability to get financial aid when you are applying for financial aid for college? The answer is yes, it does. However, it's very minimal. Typically, outside assets can account for 20 to 25%, kind of as a ding when you're applying for financial aid. However, assets in a 529 only account for 5.64% of that amount against your financial aid calculation. So if you have $100,000 in there, only 5.6%, $5,600 is going to go against your ability to obtain financial aid if you are applying for financial aid. So that's by design. That's the IRS encouraging investors, folks saving for college, to not be disadvantaged by saving into these 529 accounts when they are applying for financial aid, if they still do so. So very little effect on financial aid. The other one that comes up quite a bit, what happens if my beneficiary gets a scholarship? Am I dinged on the 529? We've already saved assets in here. My beneficiary, my child, has now gotten a academic athletic scholarship. The answer to that is you are able to withdraw the amount of that scholarship from the 529 without any penalties. Any amount that you would withdraw above that would still be ordinary income. And then if you take out, monies that are not subject to the scholarship, you also have a 10% penalty as well. So it's important to understand the tax implications of these accounts, but just understand if your beneficiary does receive a scholarship for college, you're able to withdraw the equivalent amount of that scholarship, and you'll receive an exact amount of what that scholarship is valued at. Pull those out of the 529, not have to worry about the penalties inside these accounts. Another thing, sometimes we see clients that potentially overfund a 529. So maybe their 2 or 3 children get through college. We've got excess monies sitting in the account. They don't necessarily want to pull that back out. Another great feature about 529 accounts is you have the ability to select other beneficiaries that do not have to be your direct beneficiary yourself or your children. So there's a lot of flexibility. They're pretty liberal in the ability to name, indirect family members or other non-family members as a beneficiary. If you were to, if it was a goal of yours to pay for your nephew's college expenses or another family member or a friend, you can absolutely do that by just changing the beneficiary, still retaining the asset in the 529 as your account, but again, with excess funds, potentially helping somebody else fund their college and educational needs. Couple final things here and wrap up. Couple things that we just advise with help and planning. Number one, we utilize a financial planning software. So, colleges are obviously all over the map with their expenses. I just explained the average is $30,000. If you're looking at, MIT or Harvard, those as of today are over $60,000 per year. So there's a wide variance on where your beneficiaries may go to college. And thus, we utilize financial planning software to say, if your beneficiary is 12 years old today, we know exactly when they're going to go to college. Maybe just we don't know where yet. We can use this financial planning software to solve for, funding the 529 to cover all expenses based on some assumptions that we put into the planning software. So I would really encourage you all to use future value calculations or planning software to plan ahead to pay for these expenses, number one. Number two, this is a personal opinion of mine. I typically encourage folks that we work with to not necessarily fully fund the 529s for college expenses before the beneficiaries enter college. The reason for that is, as it sits right now, there is no time period on how long the monies have to sit in a 529 account. So if you are underfunded, let's say you fund 80% of the assumed 4-year expense, which if it's $120,000, $30,000 per year on average, maybe you fund, let's say you fund $100,000 of that, it's going to cost $120,000. Well, you have 4 years while your beneficiary is in a 4-year public college to continue to use that 529 to pay for their expenses. So I typically encourage folks, save somewhere between 70, 80, 85% of what you think that need will be, because again, it's not, you don't necessarily want to overfund a 529 and have assets left when your beneficiaries are done with school, number one. Number two, you can continue to fund it while they're in school and immediately pull the funds back out. So you're getting the deduction, you're paying qualified educational expenses while they're there. There's no time period of how long you have to leave the assets in the account. And then number three, 4 years is quite a long time, right? You might have investment performance on that account. If you're 80% funded, 85% funded, it's possible that the investments in there actually end up paying for year 3 or 4 if we have a good few years in the stock market as well. So that's, again, my personal opinion that I share with folks. Leave a little bit of wiggle room there for growth and additional contributions while your beneficiary is actually in college, because you can make those up as you go. And then lastly, as I always say, with any of these financial planning topics, reach out to your current team. If you have an advisor currently, your accountant, these things, they need to be talked about. You need to understand the rules of them because there are tax implications of these. My team and I are certainly happy to help answer any questions that you may have. But, just remember 529s can be a great way to help you fund your educational needs while realizing very likely a state tax deduction. So kind of a double win there. So with that, keep it a little short, little light today. Hope you found this beneficial. Again, reach out to my team and I. We always have our information in all of these videos. Happy to answer any questions you may have. And again, just appreciate you being here with me following this episode. If you have ideas for future episodes, please let me know, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care.